Starlife Strangelove September 2021 teasers. Wed the 1st of September 2021. Episode 321. Niranjan ignores Sojal, who rants about Varad's affair with Manasseh. Later, he becomes infuriated on seeing Shlok and Asta inside the elevator. Meanwhile, Shlok accidentally spills coffee on Asta's laptop and offers to help. Asta gladly accepts the offer, just to spend some time with him. Episode 322. Shlok asks Asta to maintain her distance. Ankush continues to create chaos in Kalindi's house. In conversation with Anjali, Sojal blames Asta for Varad's extramarital affair. When confronted by Asta, Mansi asks her to stay away from her personal matters. Thursday, the 2nd of September 2021. Episode 323. Varad tells Asta that he and Sojal are not compatible. Sojal criticizes Niranjan before apologizing to Anjali. She then decides to stay with Anjali. Meanwhile, Asta informs Shlok of Varad's extramarital affair. Episode 324. Asta tells Niranjan that Shlok and Varad will know his true colors soon. Manasseh feels betrayed by Asta and Sojal. Asta and Anjali then comfort the heartbroken Sojal. Meanwhile, Asta decides to buy a property for an education center. She calls her house to speak to Avadhut, but Ankush answers the call. Friday, the 3rd of September 2021. Episode 325. Ankush realizes that Asta is Kalindi's weakness, and takes advantage of it. After her car breaks down, Asta is offered a ride home by Shlok. They get stuck on the way because of the rain. Meanwhile, Kalindi does not let Ankush to enter for reaching home late. Episode 326. Denied entry, Ankush breaks Kalindi's door. Shlok asks Asta to sleep in the car. However, she returns to the tent. Shlok then asks her to drink brandy to counter the cold. She becomes intoxicated and dances with Shlok. Later, she finds a snake on Shlok's leg and throws it away. Saturday, the 4th of September 2021. Episode 327. Niranjan daydreams that Shlok is aware of his misdeeds. While Kavya refuses to speak to Varad, Asta and Shlok return to the Agnihotri house. Shlok tells Niranjan that Asta rescued him from a snake. Jyoti suggests Varad to reconcile with Sojal. Episode 328. Jyoti ignores Renuka when asked about her morale. Later, an auto rickshaw driver abducts Asta with the help of a few goons. Meanwhile, Siddharth assures Renuka that he will condemn Jyoti for her actions. Will Asta manage to escape from the abductors? Sunday, the 5th of September 2021. Episode 329. After escaping from the abductors, Asta reaches the meeting venue. Shlok helps her with her presentation. The client, impressed by her good work, allows her to collaborate with Shlok on the project. Meanwhile, Ankush returns home in an injured state. Shlok is upset about Asta's abduction. Episode 330. Renuka's friend, Shanti, provokes her against Jyoti. Renuka tries to dominate Jyoti. When Shlok tells about Asta's abduction, Niranjan appears clueless. He becomes dejected when told that Asta's presentation was better than Shlok's. Meanwhile, Renuka's friend provokes her against Jyoti. While Kalindi tends to Ankush's wounds, Asta requests Varad to reconcile with Sojal. Monday, the 6th of September 2021. Episode 331. An apologetic Varad wishes to reconcile with Sojal. To get back with his wife, he asks the heartbroken Mansi to return to Singapore. Meanwhile, Kalindi continues to suffer humiliation courtesy Ankush. Niranjan plans to stir the pot, after listening to Vasad advising Shlok to express his love for Asta. Episode 332. On her way to office, Asta finds Niranjan speaking to her kidnappers. She decides to expose him. Meanwhile, Ankush finds new ways to humiliate Kalindi. When she tries to tend to his injury, Ankush snaps at her. Kalindi continues to suffer the wrath of Ankush's behavior. Tuesday, the 7th of September 2021. Episode 333. Asta mocks Niranjan by seeking his blessings on Dasara. Niranjan breaks her phone to get rid of any evidence. Asta tells him that she has already sent the video to Shlok. Niranjan panics and instructs his subordinates to delete the video from Shlok's phone. Episode 334. Acting on Niranjan's order, Anand deletes the MMS from Shlok's phone. Soon, Niranjan's goons kidnap Asta. Just as Niranjan instructs them to tie Asta to Ravan's idol, Anjali eavesdrops on his telephonic conversation. Wed the 8th of September 2021. Episode 335. Anjali tries to save Asta, but is stopped by Niranjan. Shlok sets Ravan's idol on fire until Asta shouts his name. He rescues Asta after noticing her in the CCTV. Niranjan slaps Anjali. Shlok learns Niranjan's true colors. Episode 336. Varad witnesses a heated argument between Anjali and Niranjan. They start to panic as Shlok can't be contacted. A worried Asta follows Shlok's car in an autorickshaw. Shlok recalls Niranjan's deeds and decides to commit suicide. He prepares to jump off the cliff. Thursday, the 9th of September 2021. Episode 337. Niranjan throws Anjali out of the house after the two exchange heated words. Shlok addresses Anjali as his mother for the first time, and embraces her. He decides to leave the Agnihotri house with the family. Niranjan pretends to be innocent. Meanwhile, Avathoth wants Kalindi to tell Asta about Ankush. Episode 338. Niranjan fails to stop Shlok from leaving the Agnihotri house along with Anjali and Asta. Shlok confronts Niranjan for his deeds before ending their relationship. Shlok leaves his valuables behind, and instructs Asta to leave her jewelry. Anjali and Sojal follow Asta. Niranjan is left alone. Friday, the 10th of September 2021. Episode 339. Anjali pleads with Varad and Sojal to stay back in the Agnihotri house, and not leave Niranjan alone. Varad agrees, but his family refuses to return to the house. Meanwhile, Shlok has a fight with a stranger, who nearly ran into Anjali with his motorbike. Episode 340. Shlok tends to Anjali's injured leg. They spend the night in a bus stand. Shlok suggests Asta to stay in her paternal house for a few days, but in vain. Meanwhile, Varad is insulted when asked to join Niranjan's business. Stranded without a home and food, Shlok goes job seeking. Saturday, the 11th of September 2021. Episode 341. Having failed to secure a job, Shlok saves Anjali from becoming a victim of a street fight. Asta feels Shlok must enroll Anjali in an old age home. Meanwhile, Ankush asks Kalindi to sign some documents. Niranjan misses Shlok's hardworking attitude at his workplace. Episode 342. An apologetic Shlok assures Mr. and Mrs. Godbole of a secure future. He decides to drive a taxi to earn money. Meanwhile, Varad starts to replace Shlok in office meetings. He decides to manage Agnihotri group of institutions, until Shlok returns to his responsibilities. Sunday, the 12th of September 2021. Episode 343. Asta lies to Anjali about Shlok's job and says that they are living in a lodge. Shlok sees Niranjan while driving a taxi. Jyoti is shocked to learn about Shlok, Asta and Anjali leaving the Agnihotri house. Later, Shlok brings saris for Asta. Meanwhile, Kalindi frets over Ankush's attitude. Episode 344. Asta and Shlok romance in their lodge. The next day, they refurbish their space. Shlok thanks Asta for being a part of his life. Meanwhile, Kavya hopes for them to return home. Later, Jyoti visits the Agnihotri house to confront Niranjan. Monday, the 13th of September 2021. Episode 345. Varad manages the office in Shlok's absence. Asta requests Sojal to not inform her parents about her condition. Avadhut sees Shlok driving a taxi and follows it, in an auto rickshaw. Asta returns to see Avadhut and Kalindi in their lodge. Meanwhile, Kalindi panics on not finding Ankush in the house. Episode 346. Asta tells Kalindi and Avadhut about the adversities faced by Shlok, Anjali and herself. Kalindi understands their reason for living in a lodge. Though Shlok initially disapproves of it, Kalindi convinces them to move to her house. Meanwhile, Niranjan feels guilty and remembers Shlok. Tuesday, the 14th of September 2021. Episode 347. Varad and Sojal are unable to contact Asta and Shlok. Later, Shlok refuses to answer the media about his disagreements with Niranjan. A picture of Shlok driving a taxi is published in the newspaper. An upset Niranjan asks Varad to bring Shlok back home. Episode 348. Varad and Sojal witness Shlok and Asta traveling in a bus. Having prevented Sojal from stopping them, Varad lies to Niranjan that he could not spot them. Meanwhile, Renuka is saddened on losing money deposited to an unauthorized bank. Later, Shlok and Asta get off the bus at a dhaba. Wed the 15th of September 2021. Episode 349. Varad tells Sojal that he has become selfish since Niranjan is depending on him. Therefore, he decides to win Niranjan's love. Meanwhile, Shlok and Asta board a truck and reach Mumbai. Asta tries to make arrangements for their accommodation, without Shlok's knowledge. Episode 350. Shlok and Asta have arrived in Mumbai and Shlok requests a property agent to arrange for their accommodation. When he sees Asta with a stranger, he asks her to be careful about who she trusts in a city like Mumbai.
Please subscribe.